Yo, what's up guys? You got PokeaimMD here with a video about Mega Swampert. I want to talk about it because it will be released really soon and I feel like it'll be a really solid Pokemon in whatever tier we end up using it in, though I'm assuming it's going to be UU. However, it does have some use in the OU tier. And I just wanted to give my thoughts on it, and of course if you guys have any thoughts on Mega Swampert, you can leave them down below in the comment section. But Mega Pert's really cool because it only has one weakness, which is grass, unless you count like freeze dry or something like that. But being water and ground, having access to Swift Swim, having a boosted 150 base attack stat, as well as having base 110 defenses, really solid Pokemon. Even the jump to 70 base speed made it a lot better, just because this allows it to outpace Pokemon like Primarina, also speed tying with Magneton, Bisharp, Pokemon like that, even speed tying with Jolly Decidueye. And also the important part is in rain with the Swift Swim, being able to outspeed Pokemon in the UU tier, because again I'm talking about it in accordance to UU, but also I'll mention a little bit how I feel like it can work in OU with some of the exact same sets. But being able to outspeed some of the prominent Scarfers in that tier, like Keldeo as well as Hydreigon. Unfortunately, it doesn't outspeed Scarf Gengar, but it does outspeed Pokemon like Keldeo and Hydreigon. And the fact that it does have water and ground coverage is really nice, because Gliscor is everywhere in the UU tier, and being able to hit that thing with Waterfall or even Ice Punch to knock it out, as well as being able to hit what's on the ground with the Earthquake, as well as Waterfall. So it's really nice. I feel like Swampert's coverage is really solid. Ground, ice, water, great coverage. Only Pokemon off the top of my head, of course there'll be a few, but only Pokemon off the top of my head that can take that on is like Shedinja. So yeah, really solid coverage. Obviously like a water absorbed Mon, like Mantine in the air can definitely take it on as well. But yeah, the fact that it also has a speed lets it outspeed Modest Volcanion. And the first set we have here is the Rain That's Abuser, just a standard abuser. You set up your Rain and you abuse it for your 4 extra turns after you set up Rain. So with Earthquake, Ice Punch, and Waterfall of course being boosted, I think Jolly Nature is necessary. As I mentioned earlier, it does allow it to outspeed Choice Scarf Keldeo, as well as Choice Scarf Hydreigon. Hydreigon does go down after about like 40-30% damage, so a couple switch into Stealth Rock. Maybe if it switches it on a regular Waterfall prior to you going for Rain Dance. And the cool thing about this set is that it doesn't need a team to function around it. Like, you don't need a full-on Rain team for Mega Swampert just to set up the Rain and break through your opponent. Though I would encourage, spikes, because spikes are the difference between knocking out Keldeo and not knocking out Keldeo. And of course, if you do have the Rain up, Keldeo's Hydro Pump will be boosted in power. But again, I also made it Jolly because outspeeds Adamant, Bisharp, knock it out with the Earthquake, and outspeeding Crawdon and things like that is pretty useful. Although you do outspeed Jolly Crawdon even with an Adamant Nature, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, it's just Rain Dance, 3 attacks. I think it's one of its best sets. This can also function in the OU tier, mainly because again, it still outspeeds the prominent Scarfers like Tapu Lele and whatnot. Has Earthquake to threaten Pokemon like Toxapex. Earthquake actually does a hell of a lot to Tapu Fini as well. I wouldn't set up a Rain Dance immediately. When you bring out Swampert, I would just start straight up attacking. I would just straight up start attacking. And the fact that Tapu Koko isn't running Grass Knot as much these days, it's usually U-Turn, Taunt, Thunderbolt, HP Ice. It definitely has its place. And even being able to tank hits from Landorus. So Swampert definitely has its place in the OU tier with this set, but though of course I'm talking more so about UU. But yeah, Earthquake allowing you to 2-KO Primarina, smack Crawdon, smack Bisharp, destroying Volcanion, and the fact that you are water and ground, so you can Volt Switch block Magneton. Be careful though, because Magneton in the UU tier does run HP Grass, because regular Swampert is one of the best Stealth Rockers in the tier. Be careful about that. But Swampert can come in on so many moves. It can come in on Flash Cannon and Thunderbolt, obviously, and then threaten it with the Earthquake. Either force a Speed Tie if it is Timidity Violite, or force it out. And Swampert also being able to 2-KO Scizor in that tier, 2-KO Lottie with Ice Punch. Really solid Mon in UU. Next up we have Curse. Curse is really cool because again it does have that base 110 Spadef, so you can eat up hits from like Lottie's Dracos, Hydreigon's Draco Meteors, Gengar Shadow Balls. You already naturally hits from Pokemon like Gliscor, and yeah, the Curse set basically abuses its giant stats. So it's just max HP, max def. Rest is put in speed. Doesn't really matter though. But Curse, Earthquake, Rest. I think Earthquake is necessary in a tier where Primarina is around, Volcanion is around. Ground Stab is really nice. I guess you could also slash Waterfall. But Rest and Sleep Talk. Now, Sleep Talk is actually slashed with Ice Punch. Ice Punch allows you to hit Pokemon like Hydreigon, like Latias, like Gliscor. Obviously, you can also slash Waterfall here. You can just get rid of Sleep Talk altogether. That's why it's slashed next to Ice Punch, or put Waterfall there, because you'll still hit hard. Even with resistances, you'll still be able to hit hard. Though, with this set, if you are running Sleep Talk, I would definitely advise running a bunch of Toxic mons, maybe like Gliscor with Toxic, to lure in Lati, hit that thing with a Toxic, lure in Hydreigon. Though even then, Gliscor's just a mon that could beat them on its own if it really wanted to. But Curse allows it to take on Pokemon like Bandit Scizor better, obviously Crocodile. This thing can naturally take on Raikou if it's not running Hidden Power or Grass. Though of course be careful, because Calm Mind Raikou doesn't need to run HP Ice since it has Calm Mind, Shadow Ball, Never Ending Nightmare. Though at the same time, with Gliscor being in the tier, because there's so many ground slash Pokemon in the tier. There's Swampert, which is water ground, and then there's Gliscor, of course, which is flying ground. So Raikou doesn't always have to run HP Ice, but it's more than likely going to be running HP Ice, especially because Never Ending Nightmare, which is Shadow Ball at +1, does a decent amount to opposing Swampert. But this one doesn't care about HP Grass anyway. It'll still eat a +1 HP Grass from Raikou, knock it out with your 150 base power. Look at your attack stat. It's 336 without any investment at all. That's busted. This mon hits so hard. But yeah. Typically on these sets, I go Jolly on most of them just because of speed tiers, but you can definitely go Adamant. I mean, it's 438 attack and an Adamant nature, so it's ridiculously hard. But Curse is pretty cool because it can also absorb status. Like, it doesn't care about Scald Burns, doesn't care about Toxic, because it can rest them off, boost. This thing on its own can beat Stall if you Toxic Quagsire. Quagsire is probably like the one thing on Stall that can beat it. Though Tangela as well on UU Stall, shout out to Piff, is also a problem. But I pair this thing with like T-Spikes, Nidoking. An offensive T-Spike, I think like Nidoking is really nice because you do threaten, especially if you're running just Rest Talk, Earthquake, you do threaten Gliscor with Ice Beam, you threaten Lati with Ice Beam for easy 2-hit KO, and you get up your T-Spikes as well as forcing out your opponent, as well as being able to Earth Power Quagsire for solid 2-hit KO and like Sludge Wave Tangela. So Sub is also the next set. Now, sometimes you can run a bulky subset, like, you know, it has base 100 HP, so you could run max HP. That way, I don't know why I'm saying you know a lot, but it does have base 100 HP, so if you want to run max HP, that way Blissey can't 2-hit KO you, that's fine. But I think that, again, in a tier where Magneton is running Timid, Bisharp is around, Decidueye is around, whether it be defensive or offensive, I think having at least the option to either outspeed them or win a speed tie is necessary. And you do get up a sub on Magneton because Magneton's not going to stay in, Gliscor's not going to stay in, and then you can just sub Earthquake, Waterfall. Sub just eases prediction. For example, if they have something like Magneton out and then they have Lati in the back, and you're in a percentage where, and they're locked into Flash Cannon like Specs or Thunderbolt, or they're like confirmed, one of those, you can sub up instead of trying to predict Lati, and have them just get off damage on you because they're not going to break your sub with Flash Cannon at all. And this just allows you to either A, get rid of Magneton as well as being able to hit Lati, or just getting off damage on Lati in general. But sub is pretty cool. Also being able to avoid like boosted Bisharp Sucker Punches, being able to, again, you force switches on like Pokemon like Gliscor, Pokemon like Bandit Scizor locked into BP. So it's really nice. I think it's a cool option on Swampert. Again, I'd advise Spikes, T-Spikes, stuff like that. Now, 4 attacks, Rain Abuser. Now, this could be on an actual Rain team itself. So you could run a Rain team with, let's say, Rain Dance Tornadus or anything like that. Just get up the Rain, something with Damp Rock. I believe Politoed is also in the tier, if I'm not mistaken. I prefer manual Rain to Politoed, I'm not going to lie. Because Politoed just gets at the Rain and does nothing else, whereas a manual Rain Abuser can also abuse it like Tornadus, use Hurricane, some can use Stealth Rock and whatnot. But yeah, it's just an all-out offensive version. Power Up Punch is the only change on it. Instead of running Rain Dance, this allows you to boost. Like on a weakened Crawdon, you can kill it with Power Up Punch, you can kill a Bisharp with Power Up Punch, get your +1. Blissey, for example, only thing you can do is Seism Toss if it's not running Toxic, so you can boost up on it and then knock it out with Earthquake. I mean, you're going to 2-KO with Earthquake anyway, but Power Punch is pretty cool. giving you that +1 option and just abusing the rain. And the great thing is, if you are running on a manual rain, the person that set up the rain, or the Pokemon that set up the rain rather, is more than likely running the Damp Rock, so you do have more turns to abuse it than you would if you just went for regular Rain Dance. But this is just the other option. Low Kick is also an option. Aqua Tail if you want a little bit of power as well over Waterfall, although I do like Waterfall's, obviously, its accuracy. 100% plus that 20% chance to flinch. Now, Fizz Def is an option because it can take on Pokemon like Crocodile in the tier, Pokemon like Zygarde Dog. Also in OU, you can take on Pokemon like Defensive Landers with ease, burn it with Scald. But it's just a Fizz Def Rest Talk set. Earthquake, Scald, Rest, Sleep Talk. Max physical defense, max HP, relaxed nature. That way you are still. You're not weakening your special attack because you have base 95 special attack, so it's not bad at all. 226 and neutral is not bad, especially using Scald just to burn your opponent. And basically being able to sponge hit, sponge status, rest talk it off, and then Earthquake and Scald your opponent. This can check Bisharp easily. It can even take a +2 hit from Crawdon. Watch out for +2 Hydro Vortex though, like +2 Crabhammer Hydro Vortex. That's a threat. That's definitely a threat. But being able to take hits from Scizor, still blocking Volt Switch from Mag, as well as eating up hits from Crocodile, eating up hits from Zygarde Dog, tanking Secret Swords from Keldeo and whatnot, still being able to tank hits from Gengar with ease just because of your natural bulk, and knocking out with Earthquake because obviously it doesn't have Levitate this generation. Really cool. Ice Beam or Ice Punch are also options over Scald, but I like Scald because it does have that 30% chance to burn your opponent. That could be the difference between winning or losing a battle. But I think Fizz Def definitely has its place. Of course, if you are using this mon in OU, I would use either Curse or just a full-on attacker with Earthquake. Adamant, again, is also an option in the OU tier, but I think in the UU tier, Timid is necessary. I think Timid is actually necessary. And even with Relaxed Nature, you do outspeed Pokemon like Blissey. You do outspeed Pokemon like Clefable. So you can potentially beat them 1v1 just with your attacks. Like, you're actually just doing so much damage to them with Earthquake. So other options, an offensive Stealth Rock variant is definitely an option. They actually had one back on Smogon back in X and Y, if I'm not mistaken, or S, if I'm not mistaken. They had an offensive tank Stealth Rock set. However, in a tier where Bisharp, Volcanion, Magneton can all run like Timid and all be options, and then there's Primarina and Crawdon around, I think that if you're running Stealth Rock, still run it on an offensive set. I don't think you want to just be outsped by those and knocked out, but that's just my personal preference. Superpower is also an option. This being able to knock out Crawdon, smacking Blissey, smacking Bisharp, whatnot. Of course, Bisharp goes down to Earthquake, but smacking Blissey as well as Crawdon is really cool. Though typically on like a Rain Dance abusing set, I wouldn't use it because why would you lower your attack when you just set up the rain to sweep? And then Toxic is also an option that could be used on any of the defensive sets. Honestly, being able to wear down your opponent. Like, not a lot of mons can come in on Swampert to begin with. You'll see like maybe Lottie, maybe Hydreigon, and Ice Punch is a 2-hit KO on those, but you can also Toxic them, put them in range later. But Serena is another mon that might come in. Decidueye, defensive Decidueye is easily 2-hit KO by Ice Punch though, so it has to be careful about switching in. And also, has to be careful about coming in on Stealth Rock plus Waterfall plus Ice Punch, because that does knock it out if it's just max HP Decidueye. So, Swampert, all in all, great offensive threat. I think it could be a great defensive Pokemon as well. I had mentioned how in OU, being able to take on Landorus, Tangrowth is pretty cool, or Toxapex. Not really Tangrowth, though if you do use an OU, you could. If it is defensive Tangrowth, you could try Ice Beam, but Assault Vest Tangrowth doesn't appreciate Adamant Ice Punches at all. That boy's being 2-hit KO'd by Adamant Ice Punches. So, all in all, really cool mod. I think it's a really cool Mega. I'm really excited to use it when it comes out. And I'll definitely be doing some UU lives with it, and maybe even an OU live with it when it does come out. But I do want to know your thoughts on Swampert. You can leave them down below. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, friends.